Only a few stood against thousands. They weren't the strongest, they weren't the richest, but they trained their minds to fear nothing. So when the enemy came like a storm, they stood like a wall. One formation, one heartbeat, a force unstoppable. They didn't win because of numbers. They won because of discipline.
Spartans didn't just fight, they erased fear. To them, pain was training, and discipline was a weapon. When enemies charged with thousands, Spartans answered with one word: hold. And when that wall of shields locked, even the strongest armies shattered. No magic, no miracles, just men who refused to step back. That's why history remembers them, not for how many they had, but for how long they stood. They weren't born warriors, they were forged. In Sparta, every boy learned one truth: comfort creates weakness. So they trained in cold nights, bled in hot sun, and smiled at pain. Because one day, the world would send an army to crush them. And that day, 300 men stood up and said, "We'll hold the line." They weren't fighting to win. They were fighting to make sure the world never forgot their name. This is what discipline looks like. In Spartan, a boy didn't become a warrior. He was made into one. At age 7, he was taken from home and thrown into the agoge. No comfort, no softness, only cold nights, empty stomachs, and lessons written in bruises. They fought barefoot on stone, ran until their legs shook, and learned to survive with almost nothing. Because Sparta believed strength wasn't in the body, it was in the mind. And when that boy finally walked out, he wasn't a child anymore. He was something the world feared: a Spartan. People feared Spartan weapons, but their real power wasn't steel. It was the man holding it. From childhood, they learned one law: never let weakness win. They fought for the man next to them, not glory, not gold, brotherhood. And when the enemy charged, Spartans stepped into the danger instead of stepping back. That's why the world feared them, not because they couldn't die, but because they refused to kneel. Before the world feared Spartans, Sparta feared nothing. They lived in a land of mountains, scarce food, and endless wars. A place where only the unbreakable survived. So Sparta made a choice. If the world was merciless, they would become more merciless. They created a code that shaped every man. No weakness, no hesitation, no retreat. To build such men, they built the agoge, an unforgiving training that turned boys into living weapons. And from that land of stone and fire rose warriors the world would never forget. This is Sparta, and this is where their legend begins.